I never thought I'd be that guy, the heartbroken husband spilling his guts to strangers but here I am. I'm Ethan, 38, married to Claire, 36. We've been together for 10 years, married for 8. 2 kids under 10, a cozy suburban home, and what I thought was a pretty solid marriage. I work in IT, Claire works in marketing. We've always been that normal couple, evening tea after the kids are asleep, Netflix marathons, inside jokes that made life feel warm and safe. Or so I thought. Looking back now, I can see the cracks started small. Claire used to leave her phone on the counter, face up, unlocked. Suddenly, it became glued to her hand. She takes it everywhere, into the bathroom, into the shower. I'd hear her typing furiously under the covers at 1 a.m. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd give some vague answer about workgroup chats. She also started buying new clothes out of nowhere, slimmer dresses, push-up bras she never wore for me, and a new perfume I didn't buy her. When I asked where it came from, she rolled her eyes and said, "It's called treating yourself, Ethan. You should try it sometime." I wanted to trust her. For months, I gaslit myself into thinking I was overreacting. She is in marketing, maybe work got busier. Maybe the new clothes were for her confidence. But then came the outbursts. Claire used to be kind, patient. Lately, she's turned cruel. She screams over the tiniest things. If the kids leave Legos on the floor, she snaps. If I ask what time she'll be home, she accuses me of being controlling. Twice, she's called me a pathetic loser in front of our kids. I tried to have calm conversations, ask if something's wrong, if she's stressed. Instead of talking, she blows up, hysterical crying fits, accusing me of never supporting her, and then storms off. Somehow, every fight ends with me apologizing. But the moment that truly broke me happened last night. It was pouring rain. Claire said she had a late dinner with a client. Something in me finally snapped. My gut screamed something wasn't right. So for the first time in my life, I followed her. My heart was pounding like I was committing a crime, trailing her car downtown in my old sedan. She parked near this trendy little cafe, dim lights, cozy atmosphere, the kind of place you take a date, not a client. I stayed in my car, rain streaming down the windshield, watching through the glass like some tragic movie cliché. And there she was. Claire walked in, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. She sat across from a guy, maybe mid-30s, slick hair, expensive watch. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. Their body language said it all. Her hand rested on his across the table. He leaned in close. She tossed her hair back like she used to with me. And then I saw it, the kiss. Tender, deliberate. Not a peck. A slow, intimate kiss like they were the only 2 people in the world. I swear my chest physically hurt. 10 years of marriage collapsed in that single moment. I drove home in silence. When she finally got back hours later, she didn't even look guilty. She breezed in like nothing happened, tossed her heels off, and said, "Traffic was terrible." Then she went straight into yelling about the dishes in the sink. No hello. No hug. Just venom. And I stood there dripping betrayal, saying nothing, feeling like a stranger in my own home. But I'm done being silent. Claire has no idea what I saw. No idea that I now know who she really is. And she definitely has no idea what's coming next. Divorce papers are just the beginning. Things are going to get messy in ways even I didn't see coming. There's so much more to this story, stuff that will make your jaw drop. I'll share it all here, because I honestly don't know how else to survive this. Thanks to everyone who read and messaged me after my first post. Writing it out helped me keep my sanity. But what happened after that rainy night took things to a whole other level. The morning after, Claire acted like everything was fine. She was sipping her almond latte, scrolling Instagram like she hadn't kissed another man hours earlier. Meanwhile, I was barely holding it together. I wanted to scream, "Who is he?" But instead I kept quiet. I needed to be smart. I needed proof. I'd seen her once with him, but I knew if I confronted her too soon, she'd flip it back on me like she always does. That day, I started digging. Claire's phone is glued to her 24/7, but her laptop. She sometimes leaves it open for work. I waited until she hopped in the shower. My heart was pounding, hands shaking, as I opened her email. And there it was, a folder labeled, "Consulting Invoices." Except inside were dozens of love letters and receipts for hotel stays under her name and some guy called D. I recognized him from the cafe photo I'd snapped on my phone through the rain-streaked window. Turns out, their meetings weren't rare, they'd been happening for over a year. I felt sick. All those times I stayed home with the kids so she could work late. Lies. All those weekends I cleaned the house and made dinner while she networked. Lies. She even used our joint credit card for their hotel getaways, spa packages, champagne, room service. She was literally making me fund my own humiliation. When she got out of the shower, she started one of her usual tirades. The kids' toys were in the living room, apparently that's a crime now. She snapped, "Ethan, do you ever do anything right? You're pathetic." That word again. Pathetic. I stood there shaking, not from fear this time, but from rage. I said, as calmly as I could, "I know, Claire. I know about him." She froze mid-sentence, mascara wand in hand. For a split second, I saw it, the panic. Then the mask snapped back on. She laughed, actually laughed, and said, "You're insane. Maybe if you weren't such a loser, I wouldn't have to imagine someone better." Her voice went full hysterical after that. She threw accusations like knives, that I was spying on her, that I was jealous, that I never satisfied her, that I forced her into looking elsewhere. All while screaming loud enough for the neighbors to hear. The kids were upstairs crying. I went to comfort them while she stormed out of the house, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. 10 minutes later, she texted me, "You'll regret this." And that's when I realized something darker might be going on. Because later that evening, I got a call from my boss. Someone anonymously emailed him claiming I was stealing company funds. Completely false, but guess who has access to my personal files at home? Claire. She was trying to destroy me before I could expose her. This isn't just an affair. This is war. And I'm done playing nice. Next part will be about how I started planning my next move, and the shocking discovery about who D really is. It's not who I thought. And when you find out, your jaw will hit the floor. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Claire laughing across that cafe table, kissing him, then screaming in my face, calling me pathetic. The anonymous email to my boss rattled me too. If Claire was willing to sabotage my job just to cover her affair, what else could she do? I decided I couldn't keep stumbling in the dark. I needed to know exactly who D was and how deep this went. So while Claire took the kids to school the next morning, I dug deeper. I remembered the hotel receipts in that "Consulting Invoices" folder. There were dates, times, even check-in details. And alongside the receipts were emails. Not just sweet nothings, actual plans. One message chilled me to my core. "Can't wait for this weekend at the cabin. Maybe one day we won't have to sneak around. You know how I feel about Ethan. He's useless. D wasn't just a fling. This guy wanted my life, or at least, the version of it that included Claire and the kids. So I did some sleuthing. Cross-referenced the hotel bookings with her calendar, searched the number she kept calling late at night. When I finally got a name, my stomach dropped. Daniel. My brother. Yeah. You read that right. My own older brother, Daniel, the guy who toasted our wedding with tears in his eyes, has been sleeping with my wife behind my back for over a year. I wanted to vomit. It all started making sense in a sick way. Daniel lives a couple of towns over, recently divorced, always checking in on Claire when I worked late. He'd text me sometimes, "Hey man, I stopped by." Claire seemed stressed, took her out for dinner to cheer her up. I thought he was being supportive. Turns out, he was being supportive in the worst way imaginable. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I called my friend Mark. Thank God for Mark. He's been my buddy since college, one of the few people I trust. I told him everything. Mark's reaction: "Bro, you need to lawyer up. Today. She's already trying to nuke your job. What do you think she'll do when you file for divorce?" He was right. While Claire was out that afternoon, I met with an attorney. Turns out her anonymous sabotage could backfire. Judges don't like parents who play dirty games. I started gathering every piece of evidence: the hotel receipts, the emails, the photo from the cafe. My lawyer told me to stay calm, keep documenting, and not confront Daniel until we had everything airtight. But staying calm was almost impossible when Claire came home that evening acting like nothing happened. She even had the nerve to tell me she'd invited Daniel over for dinner that weekend, so the kids can see their uncle. The audacity was unreal. She looked me dead in the eye with that smug little smirk, knowing damn well I hadn't exposed her yet. Like she was daring me to say something. And as if that wasn't enough, something else happened later that night, something I never expected. While Claire was showering, my 8-year-old daughter walked into my office with her tablet. She whispered, "Daddy, why is Uncle Daniel always kissing Mommy goodbye when you're not home?" I swear my heart shattered in that moment. My kids know. They've seen it. Claire wasn't even careful around them. That was the breaking point. This isn't just betrayal between adults. She's dragging our children into this toxic mess. I'm done letting her control the narrative. Next post, I'll share how I confronted Daniel in a way that shocked even me, and what Claire did in response that made the whole situation explode even more. I promised an update, and buckle up, because things went nuclear. After my daughter's heartbreaking confession, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. My lawyer said to keep gathering evidence quietly, but seeing my kids caught in the crossfire pushed me over the edge. I decided I'd confront Daniel first, away from Claire, so she couldn't spin her usual hysterical lies. Saturday morning, I drove to Daniel's place. I didn't call ahead. My hands were shaking the whole way, a mix of rage and nausea. When he opened the door, he looked surprised but not guilty, at least not right away. "Ethan? Everything okay?" Like we were about to grab beers and watch a game. I cut him off. "How long have you been sleeping with my wife?" His face drained of color instantly. He stammered, "What are you talking about?" but the guilt was all over him. I threw the hotel receipts and emails onto his kitchen counter. His eyes darted to them, then to me, and I swear I saw relief and shame fighting each other. "Ethan, listen, it just happened. After my divorce, Claire was there for me. You were always working late," and she said. I didn't let him finish. She said what? That I was pathetic? That I didn't deserve her? That's your excuse for betraying your own brother? Daniel broke down crying. Literally crying. He admitted they'd been sneaking around for over a year. And then he dropped another bomb. She said she's going to leave you after the holidays. We've been talking about moving in together. I wanted to hit him. I really did. But I walked out before I did something I couldn't take back. When I got home, Claire was in full, perfect mom mode, baking cookies with the kids, like she hadn't detonated our family. I told her to go upstairs, we needed to talk. She gave me that smug smirk again and followed. I laid it all out, what I saw, the emails, Daniel's confession. For a split second, she looked caught, and then, the hysterics began. Claire screamed so loudly the kids covered their ears downstairs. She accused me of spying, of ruining her happiness, and then, this is rich, claimed I was emotionally abusive because I worked long hours to pay our mortgage. When screaming didn't work, she switched to crying and begging. We can fix this, Ethan. I'll stop seeing him, I'll go to therapy, just don't take my kids away. I almost laughed at the hypocrisy. 2 hours ago she was planning to leave me for my own brother. I told her it was over. I said I'd already spoken to a lawyer. That's when she snapped again and spat out another threat: if you divorce me, you'll regret it. I'll make sure everyone believes you abused me. I'll take the kids. You'll have nothing. That's when I realized just how far she might go. Between the email to my boss and this threat, Claire was willing to scorch the earth to keep her double life intact. And as if the day wasn't bad enough, the most shocking thing happened that night. I was tucking my daughter in when she asked, "Daddy, are we moving to Uncle Daniel's house like Mommy said?" My blood ran cold. Claire had already been telling the kids she was planning to leave me before I even confronted her. I don't know how I slept, but I did. And the next morning? Let's just say I woke up to something on the front lawn that made this entire nightmare even crazier. I'll post that in the next part, because it deserves its own chapter. Spoiler, it involves Claire, Daniel, and the police. I woke up the next morning to pounding on my front door and shouting outside. It was early, the sun barely up, kids still asleep. My stomach already knots these days as soon as I open my eyes, but this felt different. I pulled on a hoodie and stepped outside, and I swear I thought I was still dreaming. There was Claire, standing on our front lawn, screaming at the top of her lungs for the whole neighborhood to hear. Next to her, Daniel. And behind them, a police cruiser parked at the curb, lights flashing. Claire had mascara running down her face, hair wild. She was wailing, "He's abusive. He locked me out. He's stealing my kids from me." Daniel had his arms around her like some hero in a bad movie, glaring at me like I was a criminal. And our poor neighbors, standing on their porches, phones out, watching the drama unfold like it was reality TV. A police officer walked up to me and calmly asked for my side. My head was spinning. Locked her out. She had a house key in her hand while she screamed. Turns out Claire had called the cops saying I kicked her out and was keeping the kids hostage. She tried to get an emergency order right there on my lawn. Thank God for my lawyer's advice. I had already emailed him all the receipts and emails and made backups. I calmly explained to the officer what was actually happening, that Claire lives here, that she had access to the house, that we're in the middle of a marital dispute, and she's been having an affair with my brother. I didn't even have to show proof right then. The officer said it was a civil matter and not criminal. But the embarrassment? Brutal. Claire wasn't done though. As the police wrapped up, she suddenly switched tactics. She started shrieking about how I neglected the kids and left them alone last night. Flat out lies, they were asleep upstairs the entire time. When that didn't work, she threw her wedding ring on the lawn in front of everyone and stormed off with Daniel in tow, screaming that she was done being the victim. The neighbors stared. One of them, Mrs. Coleman across the street, whispered, "We always thought she was so sweet." Yeah, me too once. After the cops left and the street finally cleared, I went inside and just sat there shaking. My kids came down scared and confused. I had to explain that Mommy was upset and we'd figure things out, trying to keep their world from crumbling. Inside, I felt completely hollow. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number texted me, "Better watch your back. You think you can take my sister's kids from her? Good luck." I didn't recognize the number. Claire has a brother I barely talk to, could this be him? Or someone else she's dragged into this? My lawyer says we're filing the divorce papers this week and seeking temporary custody to protect the kids from all this chaos. But it feels like every time I try to take a step forward, Claire finds a new way to drag me through hell. And trust me, this still isn't the craziest thing that's happened. There's another twist coming, one I found out the very next day that made my jaw hit the floor all over again. Let's just say Daniel isn't the only one Claire's been lying to. I'll share that in the next part. I thought I'd already hit rock bottom with the affair, the screaming matches, the cops on my lawn. Turns out, I was only on the middle floor of this emotional hellscape. The basement door was still waiting to open. The morning after the police incident, I got an email from my lawyer. He'd filed the initial divorce paperwork and suggested I get a full financial picture before things moved further. Claire handled a lot of our joint finances. I work steady hours, but she's in marketing and often took charge of bills. I thought she was responsible with money. Spoiler, she wasn't. When I logged into our joint bank account and credit cards, I nearly dropped my phone. There were withdrawals and charges I didn't recognize. Large ones. Thousands of dollars over the past year. Hotel stays I already knew about, but also jewelry stores, high-end boutiques, and even wire transfers. One in particular caught my eye, a $5,000 payment to someone listed only as C. Bloom Consulting. I'd never heard of them. I did some digging. C. Bloom Consulting isn't a company. It's a person, Cynthia Bloom. And when I looked her up on Facebook, my jaw nearly hit the floor. She's Claire's best friend, you know, the one who always told me I should work less and appreciate Claire more. Turns out Cynthia's been getting paid by Claire, and not for friendship. I still didn't understand what was going on until I found an email thread Claire forgot to delete. It was between her and Daniel. She wasn't just cheating. She was scheming. In the emails, Claire was bragging that she and Cynthia were funneling money out of our joint account into a new life fund. They were planning to move out of state with Daniel after the divorce and leave me bankrupt. They were literally paying Cynthia to help hide and transfer assets so I couldn't touch them in court. But that wasn't even the worst part. Buried in the same emails was something I can't unsee, talk about how Ethan doesn't even know the truth about Lily. Lily is our youngest, 5 years old. Claire wrote, once the divorce is final, we can tell him the truth, that Lily is yours, not his. He'll be out of our lives and you'll finally be her real dad. I had to read it 5 times before I could breathe again. The implication was clear, Lily might not be my biological daughter. Daniel might be her father. I felt like the walls closed in. I looked at my little girl playing with crayons in the living room and wanted to cry. She's mine no matter what a DNA test says. I've raised her, loved her, been there for every scraped knee and bedtime story. But the betrayal? That my wife and my brother might have been laughing behind my back while building a family together under my roof? It was almost too much. I haven't told anyone yet, not even my lawyer. I don't know what I'll do. Part of me wants to march straight into a DNA clinic tomorrow. Part of me is terrified of the answer. And Claire? She has no idea I know any of this yet. That night, she texted me from Daniel's place, the kids are better off with me. Just sign the papers and we can all move on. As if ripping my heart out wasn't enough, she wants me to make it easy for her. Well, I'm done playing the victim. If she thinks she can cheat, lie, drain our accounts, and take my kids, she's about to learn what consequences look like. I've already started setting up something that will expose her lies in a way no one, not even Daniel, is ready for. And the way it all unfolded? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. That's what I'll share in the next part. Let's just say the upcoming twist involves a DNA test, an unexpected ally, and a public reveal Claire never saw coming. I didn't sleep again after reading those emails about Lily. My hands shook every time I looked at her. Not out of anger at her, never her, but at Claire and Daniel for putting me in this position. A 5-year-old should never be part of some sick secret. I knew I had to find the truth, no matter how much it might hurt. The next day, while Claire was still at Daniel's, I called my lawyer and told him what I'd found. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Ethan, you need a paternity test ASAP." Quietly. He gave me the name of a reputable clinic that could do a legally admissible test for court. My heart felt like it was being squeezed, but I booked it for the very next morning. Convincing Lily to go with me without making her scared was the hardest part. I told her it was just a quick checkup with Daddy. She smiled and held my hand the whole way. She didn't cry when they swabbed her cheek. I almost did. I also got swabbed. The results would take a week. A week that felt like a lifetime. While waiting for the results, I started planning. If Claire and Daniel wanted to play dirty, I wasn't just going to defend myself, I was going on offense. I remembered the stunt on my lawn, the fake abuse allegations, the money being siphoned. My lawyer said judges hate deceit like that. If I could expose her lies publicly and legally, it would strengthen my custody case. Enter my unexpected ally, Mark, my college buddy who's been my rock through this. He's also a bit of a tech wizard. I showed him the emails and receipts I found. His reaction? "Bro, this is a goldmine. She's hanging herself with her own rope. We just need to show the world who she really is." Mark suggested we gather more proof, screenshots, voice memos, even security footage. That's when I remembered the doorbell cam on our house. Claire always thought it was broken because I never bothered checking it. Mark helped me pull old clips from the cloud. What we found made my stomach turn and gave me ammo at the same time, multiple videos of Daniel coming over when I wasn't home, Claire kissing him on the porch, and, this part broke me, them sneaking into the house in the middle of the day while the kids were at school. She even once shoved Daniel away laughing, saying, "Hurry, before Ethan gets home." We saved it all. Mark said, "Don't confront her yet. When you drop this bomb, it has to be undeniable. You need witnesses. Court. And maybe, a little audience." At first, I thought he was joking. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized he was right. Claire's built this narrative that I'm abusive and neglectful, whispering lies to friends and family. If I just quietly handed over divorce papers, she'd keep controlling the story. But if I exposed her lies openly, well, let's just say her hysterical, perfect mom mask would shatter. I started putting together a plan. It involved an upcoming family event, our son's school talent show, where all our relatives, neighbors, and Claire's parents would be present. Let's just say I had an idea to make the truth unavoidable there. And as if the universe wanted to fuel me even more, something happened midweek that lit an even bigger fire under me. Claire showed up with Daniel unannounced and dropped a new bomb that backfired spectacularly. I'll explain that in the next part because it changed everything about how the final confrontation would go down. Midweek, right as I was finalizing the talent show plan with Mark, Claire and Daniel showed up unannounced. It was late afternoon. The kids were in the backyard, and I was in the kitchen when I heard a knock, followed by the front door opening. Claire still has her key. She strutted in with Daniel behind her like they owned the place. Her hair perfectly curled, Daniel grinning smugly. The audacity alone made my blood pressure spike. Claire crossed her arms and said, "We need to talk. The kids deserve honesty. We've decided it's time to stop sneaking around." Daniel chimed in, "We're in love, Ethan. We're moving in together. And Claire is pregnant." "Yeah. Pregnant." That word punched me in the gut so hard I almost doubled over. Claire smirked like she'd won. "We'll be starting our new family soon, and the kids should know early so they can adjust." My mind raced. Pregnant with Daniel's baby while still married to me. It was the final confirmation of how little shame she had left. They fully expected me to roll over, maybe even congratulate them. But instead of blowing up, I stayed calm. Too calm, maybe, because I could see it unsettled her. "That's a lot," I said, flat voice. "Thanks for letting me know." Claire frowned. She's used to me begging or crying or apologizing when she goes hysterical. Me staying composed threw her off. She tried pushing again. You should just sign the papers now, Ethan. Spare everyone the drama. You'll get weekends with the kids, maybe holidays, and that's generous considering. I cut her off with a smile that must have looked strange because Daniel took a step back. Claire, thank you for telling me. Honestly. I think you're right. The kids do deserve honesty. Everyone does. Don't worry, I'll make sure of that. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means the truth's coming out soon, I said, and you won't have to sneak around anymore. We'll let everyone see who you really are. She laughed nervously, then flipped back into screaming. You're delusional, Ethan. Everyone knows you're controlling and pathetic. No one will believe you. My family loves me, your family loves me, you have nothing. She stormed out with Daniel after that, slamming the door so hard a picture frame cracked on the wall. I stood there shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. Her pregnancy announcement and the way she gloated. That only made my plan sharper. Not only would I expose the affair and stolen money, but also her scheme with Cynthia and the lies about me abusing her. And maybe, if the DNA test confirmed what I feared, the truth about Lily too. The results were due any day now. Mark and I were putting together everything for the talent show reveal, videos, emails, receipts. The entire neighborhood and both families would be there. If Claire wanted an audience, she was going to get one. Then, the very next morning, the DNA results came in. And they were even worse than I imagined. What I learned changed my plan from expose to utterly dismantle. I'll explain in the next part. Get ready, because it's brutal. The next morning, the email I'd been dreading landed in my inbox. Subject line, confidential paternity results. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I locked myself in my office before opening it. My kids were eating breakfast in the kitchen, laughing about some cartoon, completely unaware their father's entire world was about to shift. The results were clear and cold, 0% probability of paternity. Lily is not biologically mine. The test confirmed what those vile emails between Claire and Daniel implied. My brother is the father of the little girl I've raised for 5 years. I can't describe the pain. It's like my chest collapsed. I sat there, head in my hands, trying to breathe. I've been there for every one of Lily's milestones, her first steps, her first words, every sleepless night with fevers, every bedtime story. She calls me daddy, because I am her daddy. No test can take that from me. But the betrayal? That my wife and my brother let me raise their child like this, laughing behind my back. It's a wound that may never heal. I called my lawyer immediately. His voice was steady when mine wasn't. This changes strategy, he said. The court needs to see this alongside all the other evidence. Her credibility will be shredded. He recommended filing for full custody of both kids. Even if Lily isn't biologically mine, the years of parenting and Claire's instability give me a strong case. When I hung up, I felt a mix of grief and fire. The DNA result hurt like hell, but it also gave me resolve. Claire had gloated she was pregnant with Daniel's baby and told me to sign the papers and go away. She tried to make me feel powerless. But now I had undeniable proof of everything. That night, Mark came over and we finalized the plan for the talent show. The event was in 3 days. Both sets of grandparents would be there. Claire's parents, who have always thought I wasn't good enough for their princess. Daniel. Neighbors. Even Cynthia, her best friend and partner in scheme, was scheduled to come because her niece was performing too. It was perfect. We pulled together everything. Asterisk doorbell cam clips of Claire and Daniel kissing on my porch while our kids were inside. Asterisk screenshots of the stolen money scheme and Cynthia's involvement. Asterisk emails where Claire calls me pathetic and talks about how she and Daniel laugh about me behind my back. Asterisk the paternity results for Lily. Asterisk and, for good measure, a clip from my security camera where Claire screamed, "If you divorce me, I'll make everyone believe you abuse me." Yes, she said that out loud once while drunk, and I had it on audio. We loaded it all into a neat little presentation on a USB. Mark's cousin works at the school and agreed to help cue it up during intermission. It wouldn't just be my word against hers anymore. It would be undeniable proof in front of everyone she's manipulated. Was it petty? Maybe. But after the cops on my lawn, the anonymous email to my boss, her threats to take my kids and bankrupt me, and now the DNA bomb, I didn't care. This wasn't revenge anymore, it was survival. The morning of the show, Claire texted me a smug message, "Wear something nice tonight. Don't embarrass the kids." I smiled. Tonight, she was the one about to be embarrassed. Publicly. Permanently. And what actually happened at the school talent show, let's just say it exceeded even my wildest expectations. I'll share all of that in the next part. The night of the school talent show felt surreal. My son had been practicing his magic act for weeks, and I wanted to keep the focus on him, not the hurricane swirling in our lives. But this was the only time all the players would be in one room: Claire, Daniel, Cynthia, her parents, mine, neighbors. I wasn't out to humiliate my son, I was out to stop Claire from ever controlling the narrative again. I arrived early with Mark, who had the USB drive. We gave it to his cousin backstage with instructions to play it at intermission when the screen was lowered for the slideshow. Meanwhile, Claire swept in like she owned the place. She wore a flowing dress, Daniel holding her hand, visibly smug. Her parents beamed. Cynthia waved like a queen greeting her subjects. The audacity was off the charts. During the first half of the show, I sat silently as my heart pounded. My son nailed his act, the crowd cheered. I clapped, tears in my eyes. Whatever chaos followed, I wanted him to have that moment. Then intermission came. The lights dimmed. The slideshow started, cute kids singing, dancing, the usual. And then, like clockwork, Mark's cousin switched the input. The screen went black. Then the first clip rolled, Claire and Daniel kissing on my porch while our kids were inside. Gasps filled the auditorium. Next came screenshots of the stolen money and Cynthia's name on the transfers. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Claire leapt from her seat, shouting, "Turn it off." Daniel grabbed her arm, pale as a ghost. Her parents looked confused, mine looked heartbroken. Then the kicker, an audio clip of Claire's drunken voice screaming, "If you divorce me, I'll make everyone believe you abuse me," followed by the paternity results displayed in bold, Lily, 0% probability of paternity. The room erupted. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Cynthia bolted for the door. Claire was screaming hysterically, "You set me up. You're evil." Daniel just sat there frozen. Her parents looked like they'd aged 10 years in 5 minutes. The principal tried to restore order, but the damage was done. Everyone had seen the truth. Neighbors who had whispered behind my back now looked at Claire with disgust. Her carefully curated image crumbled in real time. I stood up and calmly said, "I didn't want this to happen here, but Claire left me no choice. I've been accused of abuse and neglect. I've been lied to for years. Everyone deserves to know the truth." Then I walked out. My son followed me later with my parents. Claire didn't even notice because she was too busy shrieking at Daniel. That night, my phone exploded. Friends, neighbors, even coworkers reaching out in shock and support. Some said it was harsh to expose her like that. Maybe it was. But after everything, I felt like I'd finally taken my power back. The fallout didn't stop there. The next morning, I learned Claire's parents had kicked her and Daniel out of their house. And Cynthia? Turns out she has legal trouble of her own now that my lawyer has evidence of her financial scheme. And it's still not over. Court is coming. Custody hearings are next. Claire is already trying to spin this into me being vindictive, but good luck with that after what everyone saw. The next parts will cover the legal aftermath and the unexpected way Daniel turned on Claire when things got worse. Trust me, this story still has a few jaw-dropping turns left. The talent show felt like the climax of a bad soap opera, but it was only Act 2. The next week, the fallout started hitting like dominoes. My lawyer moved fast. We filed for divorce citing adultery, financial misconduct, and parental alienation. We included everything: the video evidence, the stolen money transfers, the paternity test. Claire's lawyer, yes, she found one quickly, tried to claim I was vindictive and manipulative. But my attorney pointed out the obvious: if I were making things up, there wouldn't be videos, receipts, and her own words recorded in stereo. The judge granted me temporary custody of both kids pending a full hearing. Even Lily, the court acknowledged I've been her father for 5 years, and until a full custody evaluation is done, stability is key. Claire was livid. In the hallway after the hearing, she screamed at me that I humiliated her and ruined her life. She didn't mention ruining my life for years with lies. Then came the surprise twist: Daniel showed up at my house alone one night. I almost didn't open the door, but he looked wrecked. He admitted Claire had turned on him after the talent show disaster. She blamed him for everything, said he should have stopped me, called him useless. Apparently, their fairy tale romance crumbled fast once the world knew the truth. And the pregnancy bomb? She told him she wasn't even sure if the baby was his. I stood there, numb, listening to my own brother sob on my porch. He said, "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I'll testify for you in court. Claire's been lying to me too." Part of me wanted to punch him. Part of me pitied him. I told him, "You don't get forgiveness. But you can tell the truth in court." He agreed. And he did. At the next custody hearing, Daniel testified under oath about the affair timeline, the stolen money scheme with Cynthia, and how Claire manipulated him with promises of a new life. His testimony gutted Claire's case. She melted down in court, yelling at him, at me, even at the judge. The judge had to warn her about contempt. On top of that, Cynthia is now under investigation for fraud. Apparently Claire wasn't her only client. That's a side plot I'll let the legal system handle. It hasn't all been victory laps. The kids are confused and hurting. My son cries at night, asking why mommy doesn't come home. Lily clings to me even tighter. I'm in therapy with them because I don't want my anger to poison their healing. That's the hardest part, staying calm for them while my life still feels like a storm. But the court momentum is on my side. Claire's reputation is in ruins. Her parents won't even speak to her after learning she lied about the abuse claims. And Daniel, well, he's living alone now, looking like a shell of who he used to be. Actions have consequences. You'd think the story would end there, but there's still one more twist. Claire made one last desperate move that backfired spectacularly, and it might be the final nail in her legal coffin. I'll share that next. I thought we were finally heading towards some semblance of stability. Court dates were going in my favor, the kids and I were slowly adjusting to a new routine, and even Daniel seemed resigned to facing the consequences of his choices. But Claire wasn't done. She's never been the type to accept reality without setting something on fire on her way down. One evening, about a week before our next court date, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Claire standing there with a black eye and a police officer. My heart sank. The officer said there'd been a report of domestic violence against me. Claire claimed I'd assaulted her during a custody exchange earlier that day. Problem was, there hadn't been a custody exchange. She hadn't even seen the kids all week. She was shaking, crying, playing the part perfectly. The officer took my statement while my security cameras recorded the entire exchange. I pulled up the footage from that entire day, me working from home, cameras showing I never left the house. Claire had clearly staged the bruise somehow and made up the whole story. The officer's face when I showed him the footage? Priceless. He politely excused himself to follow up, and later I found out Claire's false report became part of her court record. Judges do not like false allegations, especially when you've already been caught lying in public. My lawyer called it the final nail in her coffin. That night, Claire sent me a string of texts ranging from, "You'll regret this," to, "We could have fixed this, but you had to ruin us." I didn't respond. There's nothing left to say. The next court session was brutal, for her. My lawyer presented the false report, the security footage, and her prior threats. The judge ordered a psychological evaluation for Claire before any further custody can even be considered. Until that happens, I have sole custody of both kids. Supervised visits for her only. The look on her face when the judge said that. I'll never forget it, not out of glee, but out of sheer relief that the kids will finally have some peace. Daniel testified again, confirming she'd talked about faking abuse claims even before the talent show fiasco. That sealed it. Claire stormed out of the courtroom in tears. I didn't follow. I had my arms around my kids. They're my priority now. Do I feel pity for her? Honestly, yes. She's the mother of my children, and watching someone self-destruct this completely is sad. But pity doesn't erase damage. She made her choices. You'd think that's the end of it, and for the most part it is legally. But there's still one more piece of this saga, what life looks like now, how the kids and I are rebuilding, and the unexpected message I got from someone I never thought I'd hear from. That'll be in my final update. This will be my final update. When I started posting, I was a shell of myself, betrayed husband, terrified dad, humiliated man who thought his whole life was collapsing. It's been a whirlwind of pain, chaos, and courtroom battles, but now there's finally some peace, and I owe it to everyone who's followed along to close the loop. Legally, things are mostly settled. I have full physical custody of both kids. The court acknowledged my years as Lily's dad count for far more than biology, and Claire's psychological evaluation confirmed what we already knew: she's unstable and needs therapy before even supervised visits can expand. Her visits are now 2 hours a week at a supervised center. The kids are adjusting. My son doesn't cry at night anymore, and Lily hugs me every morning with that sleepy smile that makes my heart hurt and heal all at once. Claire's living with a distant aunt now. Daniel moved out of state, last I heard, he's in counseling himself. I don't hate him anymore, but I can't forgive him either. Time will tell if we ever speak again. Cynthia. She's facing fraud charges unrelated to me, thanks to other victims coming forward. Turns out Claire wasn't her only consulting client. Financially, it'll take time to recover. But I have my job. My lawyer is a shark who made sure Claire can't touch my paycheck anymore, and the neighbors and co-workers who saw the talent show reveal, as people now call it, have rallied around me. If Claire ever thought she'd control the narrative, that ship has sailed. The real healing has been emotional. Therapy has been a lifesaver, for me and for the kids. I've learned that being angry doesn't make me a bad dad, it makes me human. What matters is channeling that anger into protection and love for my children, not revenge. And about that unexpected message. A week ago, I got an email from Claire's mom. She apologized, genuinely apologized, for enabling Claire all these years. She admitted they always put her on a pedestal and ignored her worst behavior. She thanked me for being a good dad despite everything and offered to help with the kids however she can. I didn't expect that, and I cried reading it. It doesn't undo the damage, but it gives me hope that maybe my kids can still have healthy relationships with both sides of their family someday. As for me, I'm not ready to date again, and that's okay. Right now, my life is about Saturday morning pancakes, therapy appointments, and rebuilding a safe home. My kids are my world. And as messed up as this journey has been, I learned something huge: you don't have to stay a victim. You can take back your life, even when it feels impossible. Claire made her choices. I'm making mine. And mine are about love, stability, and honesty from here on out. Thanks to everyone who read, messaged, and gave advice. This sub saved me on some dark nights. If you're reading this and going through something similar, you're not alone. Document everything, protect yourself and your kids, and never let someone convince you you're worthless. I'm closing this chapter for good now. The storm is over. The sun's finally peeking through. The end.